the 6 things that I've learned about solo sailing. It has been a little over a week and a little over 100 nautical miles that I've been traveling as a new sailor, a new solo sailor. So I thought I'd make a video of the things that I have learned so far. That's what this video is about. The 6 things that I've learned about solo sailing. So of course 1 week and 100 nautical miles, which is like 120 today, is not a huge amount of sailing experience, solo sailing experience. I recognize that. But there is something that can be said of seeing things as a beginner as well. And I think with all things, as you become an expert, you lose that, that new beginner's perception. So there's that. And also, even though it's only a week, even though it's only 100 nautical miles, it's also the first milestone. So it's a very small milestone, but it's the first. And it's good for me to document, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm learning in this moment. It might be useful to you or someone looking at starting this type of journey. It might not be, but for me, it's a good way just to remember where I was in the beginning of June after sailing alone for a week. The first thing I would say is it's important to know your boat, know your motor, and know your rigging. This is a new boat to me, and it's been a shakedown sail every day as I'm learning how it works, how it performs, everything. One thing I can say is, heading into a marina, heading into a slip has been okay. Heading out has always been a challenge. This boat really doesn't like backing out of a slip, really doesn't like to go in reverse and turn around into neutral and then the other direction. I'm sure I'll learn, and I need an empty marina and a couple days to practice, or I need, to set up my dive buoy on a calm day and just do some maneuvers, forward, reverse, figure eights, and just really get to know how the boat handles in a marina type setting where you need to make these tight turns, forward and back, and even sideways. The engine has not played up, but it's played up. The first time I fired her up, she's a new engine, I couldn't get her going. 2 hours of trying to get it to turn over, and it wouldn't. I switched the tank to the external tank, gave it a couple priming pumps, and it worked. Worked on like the second pull. So even today, pulled into a marina, had the engine running for 2 hours, stopped, got checked in, went to move the boat to my slip, and was in a low throttle, and she just gave out and conked out on me, and I still don't know why, but I played with it a little bit, and that's the thing. Just get to know the motor, because it's these little situations of problem solving, and after a few times of things not working the way they should or that you hope to, you end up figuring out, okay, so try this, try that, check that, try this, and you have a bunch of ideas that you can work off of. The rigging as well, know where it is. The first time I ran the jib lines, I ran them on the inside of the stanchions. They should be on the outside. So the first time I went to unfurl the Genoa, it wasn't in the right position. So there's been other little things where, as a new sailor, a new boat, I'm learning, and I think that's that is the number one, know the boat, know the motor, know the rigging. Number 2 is to have a routine. Have a routine for daily life, but also have a routine for pre-launch and for end of day shutdown. Got a list, and I will read them because I was thinking of what do I do, and I need to have this out to, still it's new. I need to remember these things. Number 1, you're heading out alone, depending on the time. Prepare some food, get your water ready, and then get all of your gear that you will need for the day and put it out in the cockpit or inside the companionway where it's all accessible just by reaching in. Because the weather could pick up, the traffic could be heavy, whatever, that you don't have the time to come down into the cabin and look for something or prepare something. So just have it all ready and accessible. So number 2 on that departure list is to check the bilge. Every day that I head out, I check the bilge to see if there's water in there, how much water there is, and I have an idea of how much water this boat takes on. It's not very much, but I can monitor it, like hour by hour or day by day. And yeah, it's just good to know. And also I don't want to leave and have a bilge full of water that something happened that I was unaware of. So check the bilge. So engine check. Engine check comes right after preparing everything. I prepare everything for the day. I get it to where I can access it. I then check the bilge, because if the bilge is full of water, I'm not going anywhere till it's clean. Then I go and do an engine check, and I check my fuel. I check my fuel lines. I open up the case. I check the oil, and I look over everything. I just look over everything. Do you look new? Do you look, clean? Does anything look like it's burning or, dirty or loose or missing? I just look over everything that, check the lines that, maybe they've been rubbing and there's some wear or something. I just check everything. Another part of the engine check process is that I will fire up the engine before untying my lines. I'll have it in idle and just have it run for, whatever, the 2 minutes that it takes me to do my deck check and untie my lines. Just to make sure I've got, that it's warmed up and I've got enough fuel from the tank running through the carburetor, and that I'm not going to conk out as I leave the dock. I do a course float plan. So my float plan always is my route. So I open up my navionics, I plan out my route. I will do either an automatic route or a manual. But if I do a manual, I will also do an automatic. I don't trust technology to give me the best route, but I want to see what the technology gives me, and then I follow it closely and see what it's going around, and if it looks good, then I'll use it. If it looks like it's going somewhere where I might not want to go, or say I want to check something out, then I might use that automatic route but edit it and just change it slightly. So I do my course in navionics and have everything set up, and then the next thing I do is I check the weather. I just check the general weather. What's the day forecast to be like? Is it going to be sunny? Is it going to be cloudy? Are we expecting rain? Just that type of thing. I just want to know, just in the broadest sense, because if the weather report automatically says it's a windy day, gusts, or severe weather bulletin issued for today, I don't need to go any further. I know that the weather is going to be bad, and I just pause. So if the general weather looks good, then I go into predict wind and I check the wind report, and I look at the gusts, because the gusts will give you the gusting wind as well as just the constant wind. If I click on the wind only, then it just shows me what the constants will be. But I want to see what the gusts will be as well, because, if it says that it's going to be 8 knots constant, then I think, well, that's wonderful. But if I hit on that gusts, well, the gusts could be gusting to 15. And then I think, okay, well, that's good to know, because I need to be prepared at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because it's going to be gusting to 15, and I might want to be thinking about reefing the sails by then. The next thing is that I check the waves. So the wave reports in Predict Wind as well. Winds couldn't be 5 knots, but a couple hours before they might have been 15 knots. And it'll take a few hours for the wind height to die down so that it's comfortable. I went from Northport to Charlevoix, and it was high winds before leaving, but it was tapering off, and the winds looked good when I got out into Lake Michigan. The waves were quite high, and I was not enjoying myself. Yeah, so I check the wave height as well. And right now, I like the waves to be less than half a meter. What I've found is that if it says zero point 0.3 of a meter, I see waves that look like 3 or 4 feet. So I know that whatever it says, I should add a couple points to that. I don't know, I don't have the experience to explain it, but what I believe as I've been thinking about it is the energy probably picks up in those waves, and the waves probably join together is what happens. So you would have a 3 foot wave and a 3 foot wave and a 3 foot wave, but then the wind is still blowing on it, and that those waves might join together, and then now you have a 5 foot wave, right? The next step after the engine check and my float plan is I check to make sure all of my port lights, hatches are closed and secure. I have been in a headwind with big waves washing over the deck and had some water come in. My front hatch is not great. It's good. I didn't have liters of water coming in, but I had some water come in. If the hatch was open, I could get a lot more in, or especially the port lights at the front here. I like these because they open and I can get a breeze through, but also just the angle on the deck, I could definitely get water coming through them if they're not closed and closed tight. So the next thing I do before leaving is I flick the switch to the AGM battery and power on my bilge pump. So I don't have my bilge pump running all the time. The boat is a pretty dry boat. I get maybe like a cup, 250 milliliters of water a day coming in, which I sponge up from the bilge, and it's a deep bilge. So it's a dry boat. But when I'm traveling, sometimes if the waves are really big and I'm pounding on them, I do seem to take on a little bit more water. So yeah, I flick on the power to the bilge. I don't think it's ever come on. I haven't taken on enough water to need it, but it's just one of the safety protocols and it's in place. I invested in it, so I make sure that that's done. And the final thing I do before leaving is that I try the best I can to know which side I will be docking on. So I haven't anchored yet. I'm always going to a marina right now. I hope to anchor soon and start learning that. I just want to be comfortable with everything else. Planning ahead, I try to have a reservation and know which side I'm docking on. That way, when I untie the lines, I either try to plan and reserve my dock to be on the same side so that my dock lines are always tied on the port side, let's say. But if for some reason I'm heading into a dock that has a starboard side dock, then I want to have those organized before arrival. And just knowing that ahead of time is great. If the conditions are really good when I leave the marina, it's one of the things I set up almost immediately. I pass the marina's marker buoys and usually organize my dock lines and move them to the side that I'll need them later on. Number 3, keep things organized. I try to keep things organized inside the boat and outside the boat. So when I'm not using lines, so after I've used the furler and put the furler away, I have the furling line, I coil it up and tie it onto the stanchion. My jib lines, the same thing. I place them looped around once or twice around my winch, and just so that they're not lying where I can trip over them. My halyard for the mainsail, the same thing. I like to keep it organized, and whether it's coiled onto the mast or once I have run it back and just had it sitting down in the cockpit and just did a quick coil and had it sitting in front of me. The same for the cabin. I try to keep it organized. This is a difficult thing. It's a small space and I have too many things in here, so I need to organize it in that way. But yeah, just keeping things organized in a small space, of course, a lot of clutter. I don't want to be stressed out or freaked out or whatever, not being able to find something. So I do my best to keep things organized and have a home or a general location, at least, of where they belong. So number 4 is to not rush and not to be stupid. So especially on the first couple days, I was really unsure of myself and the boat and how the boat works and just everything. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety. And in those moments, I would see something, I would see a line out of place or whatever, and my panic, although it wasn't panic, but my panic mind was telling me, run out there and fix it. But that's wrong. And even then, I've tried to hold myself back to just think, don't rush, that line is not where it's supposed to be. Okay, is it safe to go out there right now? Is there anything I can trip on? Just the situation, and I think that's a big part of just being safe on the boat, is to not rush. The same thing can be applied to my course and my route, my destination, that I don't want to rush to get from here to there and have tunnel vision and not pay attention to an aspect of the weather or, obstacles that I need to avoid in navigation. I don't want to rush. I want to just take my time. I'm learning, and I want to try to make the learning experience the best possible so that I have the conditions right, so that I can just develop this muscle memory of the routine of how to manage and use the boat, how to sail, not do anything stupid. This is the same thing, but it's also, I could say, be responsible. I'm not a heavy drinker, so it's not, but I need to say, I'm not drinking the days before I sail. I want to be clear-headed, the same, so that learning is easier, and I don't want to be tired or, just not, like, have my full attention the next day. I don't want to do anything for YouTube views. I don't want to do anything that puts me, my boat, or other people, or the environment at risk. So I'm trying to be as responsible as I can. Number 5 could be number 1. It's a lot of work. Sailing solo is a lot of work. It's exhausting. If I'm out for only a few hours, 2 to 3 hours, when I get to the dock, I'm tired already. So when I'm out for 5 or 6 hours, I'm beat, like my eyes, from the wind blowing in my eyes all day, my hands, from holding the tiller, from working the lines, my hands are sore. My lower back has been giving me trouble, but I'm standing for most of the day as well, so that I can see where I'm going. I don't have an auto tiller or any type of autopilot. I've tried to tie the tiller, but it's just not working for me. I know people do it. I need to play with it some more. I need to be somewhere where the course is not, that complicated, and that there's nothing that I can, bump into, and try to tie the tiller and see how it does on course. It's an exhausting day to be standing most of the day in the weather, sun or even cloudy, just the wind blowing on you. It's a long day in fresh air. So, speaking of tired, number 6, it's not glamorous, okay? This is a wonderful boat. 1963, Pearson Triton, 28 feet long. It's a classic. It's an amazing boat. People have crossed the Atlantic. They've circumnavigated. They've cruised around in these for 60 years. It's an awesome boat. I really love this boat. Cooking is difficult and limited to what you can cook. Cleaning is an everyday process, and it's like dirty a second afterwards. It's basically camping. I'm camping inside of a boat. So I'm bringing dirt in. I've got the companionway open. Mosquitoes and moths and whatever are coming in. I had a bumblebee fly in here one day. Yeah, it's not glamorous by any means, but it is living. I'm enjoying it. It's nice. I love being out on the water. The landscape I'm seeing is incredible. Yes, I've been nervous out there, concerned about my safety, the welfare of the boat, but it is living. I don't want to say I'm living life to my full potential. I don't know if I am, but I'm living. It's a great experience. I know I'm fortunate to have this experience. I hope you're enjoying following along and watching. this experience. So those are the 6 things that I've learned in the past week, 120 nautical miles of solo sailing. In the next video, I'll keep sailing, I'll keep learning, and I'll keep exploring further. Thanks for watching. The other thing I learned is that sunscreen eventually makes its way into my eyes and burns the heck out of them.